Let's talk about how to use video analysis to improve your child's swing and the 5 key areas of the swing you should be analyzing to see if your child has a good foundation. Phase number 1 is the load phase, or the gather phase of the swing. And in the load phase, we want to see the athlete have some sort of negative move into their rear leg where they're screwing their back foot into the ground so that their belt buckle starts to point back towards the pitcher. This is often a hard move for kids, and instead of screwing the foot into the ground where they load down and into their back hip in a rotational way, they pretty often will just put their weight on their back foot. Like you can see this athlete is doing here, where if we draw a line between her ankle and her knee, the angle of that line tips way backwards. This is too much loaded to push forward, which is not what we want. And a good way to tell if your athlete is rotating into the back hip correctly is to take some sort of slippery surface and ask the kid to take a swing with the slippery surface under their back foot. And here's what you do. If you're recording and you notice that the back foot doesn't twist as the athlete loads, then your athlete is not actually coiling into their back hip during the load phase of the swing. So that's the first big problem we usually see with kids in the first phase of the swing, which brings us to phase number 2, the stride phase of the swing. The stride phase starts as soon as there's some sort of forward movement of the hitter's body and ends right before the hitter launches their swing. And what you're looking for in the stride phase of the swing is to land in the same launch position that 99.9% of big leaguers do, right? Where when they land, their front shoulder is lower than their back shoulder, and their hands are pulled back into a launching position where the elbow and the hand are both about at shoulder height and pulled back enough so that if you were to watch them from the front, like we see here with this LSU hitter, we see them pull that elbow so it actually peeks out behind their back right before they launch their swing, instead of being like this where the rear arm is actually vertical. And the reason you want to do it this way is because the body has special tissue in it called fascia that, when quickly stretched and flexed, allows the body to be more explosive than it would otherwise be capable of being. And the thing about fascia for hitters is that it runs diagonally across the torso of the body. So the reason we see all those elite hitters pull their hands up and back when their swing is getting ready to launch is because that move is stretching the fascial lines, so that helps them be more explosive. And then the other thing you want to watch here is you want to make sure that the hands are not dropping or coming forward before the athlete's foot touches the ground. Otherwise, they're taking the stretch out of those fascial lines, and they're going to have a weaker swing as they move into the third phase, which is the launch phase of the swing. In the launch phase of the swing, what you're looking for on camera is for the athlete to actually fire their body in this order. The hips should start to rotate first while the hands pull back, then the shoulders bring the arm forward, then the arm fires, and then lastly, the hands fire. And if you're starting to think, man, this is a lot of stuff, what we actually do for people is we have software that uses AI to measure all of this for you off of any slow motion video you send us of your athlete's swing. So if we are wanting to see if an athlete is launching their swing in that right order, you can send us video that we will analyze like this, where our software turns their swing into a stick figure, kind of a thing here. So we can analyze all the different parts of the swing, measure all the angles and all the everything, and it will tell us if they fire their body in the right order, or if they have something firing out of order, where maybe their hands are firing before their arms and their shoulders. And it actually will measure all that down to the degree per second that they're rotating and moving. And this allows it so that after we give athletes drills to fix these things, we can come back and see exactly how well our training drills are actually working, because we can track their progress. So if you would like to learn more about that tool, I'll put a link to it in the description section of this video for you to check out. Which brings us lastly to the swing phase of the swing. This is that phase that everyone always has so much to say and honestly is way too much to cover in one video. But the one thing that I do want to touch on that helps young kids learn how to do this part of the swing correctly, that's pretty universal, is how to use their legs appropriately. Because how the legs are supposed to work is, if you take a good hitter and you put a line behind their back foot, you will see that their rear hip is supposed to pull their back foot forward off the ground as their belt buckle rotates, so it's pointing at the pitcher, while their lead leg is straightening into contact, where literally 100% of their weight ends up on their front leg as their back leg unweights at contact for a brief second. So when you're using video to analyze your athlete, I like to put a yellow line on their back leg in a video editing program, and as I run their swing, I'm asking myself, Is that back leg being pulled forward off that back line, or is it going backwards? And is that front knee actually straightening into contact? Now, obviously, there's a lot of stuff. And honestly, we're just scratching the surface on the other things that you should also be looking for when analyzing your athlete's swing, because we need to know things like how to help them be on time, how to make sure their barrel is on plane, and a bunch of other things. But hopefully, this gives you some ideas for where to get started. And if you like these ideas and would like to go more into detail on them, we're actually holding a free Bat Speed Booster Challenge event where I'm going to be laying out a completely detailed plan for how to add 5 miles an hour to your athlete's swing over the next 5 weeks, while also helping them hit for a higher average. That takes the quick little things that we've covered here and goes into them in a lot more detail. So if you'd like to register for that event, it is free. I'll put another link in the bio for you to check out that as well. So hopefully that gives you some ideas on how you can start to use video to do a better job analyzing your son or daughter's swing. And hopefully I will see you guys at that event and hope to talk to you soon.